the Pledge for the Equal Representation of Women in Arbitration is delighted to support Unsuited. By way of introduction, I am Sharina Pittit, the head of the India Group at Norton Rose Fulbright in London and the chair of the India chapter of the Pledge. By way of collaboration of the Pledge and Unsuited, we hope to be able to mobilize thoughts and action towards making the women practicing law, be it at the bar or law firms or within companies, more accessible and more rewarding. This season of Unsuited focuses on having meaningful, open, free-flowing conversations across jurisdictions and across generations. By these conversations, the hope is to build a solid foundation for the women of today and of tomorrow, not just by highlighting challenges, but also by reiterating how nurturing infrastructure can assist women in law to stay on, to succeed, and for some to break the proverbial glass ceiling. Thank you.
We're now moving on to the more fun part of this conversation, where we hope that you're going to be honest, for starters, and then of course a little bit irrational and impromptu as well, okay? So shall we get started? Are you ready? Okay, all right. So maybe we do it like this, that I ask the first set of questions to Tejal and then we go to Aparna. Shall we do it like that? I'll do 5
I love the
first
fact
with
that
Tejal.
you've given me some breathing space. So.
I think Tejal wants to defer it as long as possible.
Tejal would like to leave now, ideally. Her dog's calling.
I'm scared of my own honesty sometimes.
And this is the time to bring up my internet is not working issues.
Yeah.
So.
All right, let's start the interrogation with you, Tejal. The first question is, if not a lawyer, what would you be?
A hairdresser.
A hairdresser.
I love cutting hair. All through COVID, I've just gone to everyone in my house and tried to cut their hair. It's something I do want to learn in life. So I hope I will.
You want to show us their pictures so that we know whether you're going to be successful or not?
Only the husband allowed it and I cut my own, but
okay, fair.
Kids kind of ran away.
Tejal, I could have a sideline conversation there because we are market leaders in the beauty industry for events.
That's true.
I'll get you an internship, at Look Salon or, for example.
Oh, I would love it. It's very satisfying, really.
Set this up, Vika. Set it up for her, please. She really looks like she wants to.
I thought she might have said agony aunt, but hairdresser's better.
All right.
You know that one better.
The next question then, if there was one woman in history that you could ask one question to, Tejal, whom would it be and what would you ask?
I would ask Kasturba Gandhi a question because I'm just amazed at how this lady could be a wife, of a man who was revered. And I don't know, kind of build her own little world around his universe, her whole life. And it just amazes me how some women do this, and they do it so beautifully without losing their own identity in the process, which is amazing. So I would ask her, how did you do it? How did you feel? How did you not want to kind of whack him in the head and say, what about me? I don't know. I mean, many questions.
I was reading an article the other day about Kasturba Gandhi and the celibacy piece, and I was intrigued too. So yeah, my intrigue is probably a little different than yours, Tejal. We'll keep that for an offline chat. We'll save that for later, okay? All right, next question. IQ or EQ? What makes better leaders today and why?
I think neither. I think to what Vikas said earlier, it's the AQ. It's really the adaptability quotient. Because I think whatever you learn in school and whatever education you get is outdated within 6 months of passing. It really, I know I learned about Chandragupta Maurya and all that was great, but it doesn't help me today. So the way I see it is the IQ's gone a long time ago. From that perspective, I mean, the academia perspective, of course, you've got to be smart, but the EQ also, I think, is it's important. But I think the more we move towards sort of professionalism, we move towards, remote working, it's losing its, I guess, significance as the number one. I would just go with adaptability, able to change, able to learn new things all the time. To me, that's the leader. I mean, look at COVID, right? Who expected the financial crisis? Who expected COVID? You never learned anything for it. You needed to adapt, and you needed to adapt really quickly.
True.
So,
okay. AQ, that's a new one. We'll add it in the next set of questions. All right, the next question then. 3 words your ex-teammates or even current team members would use to describe your leadership style.
Pragmatic. Because I know some of these words because when I did my farewell from GE, they actually printed them all on a wine bottle for me. But the ones they came up with really were pragmatic, meticulous, and authentic. And, I chose these over kind of the others they had printed there because I just thought they described me a little bit more.
Fair enough. Okay, super. Your next question, any one incident where you treated a team member in a certain way and then immediately you felt like, oh no, that was a mistake and you regretted it?
Yeah, so I had one huge regret in life. There was a guy who worked for me, and unfortunately he passed away a few years ago, but he was very, very different from everyone else in my team. He had a very casual style of speaking. Like if he would walk into the CEO's room, he would slouch and he would sort of say, is it lonely for leaders at the top? I mean, he would make these very offbeat questions, very intelligent person, but just wouldn't fit in to a corporate type environment. And he wore different clothes, everything was different. And I feel I didn't give him the ability to be different. I thought he didn't fit in. And at one point, he actually questioned me saying, you talk a lot about diversity. I'm different. And diversity is not just the stereotypical diversity, it is just embracing different people. And I was like, you're right, And I remember that lesson learned my whole life, which is, we just dismiss people who are not like us or who don't behave the way we expect them to behave.
True. That's an honest share. Thanks, Tejal.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Aparna, redirecting the questions to you now. If not a lawyer, what would you be?
I would have, I never planned about it, but in hindsight, I would have been in the administrative service, or I could have been a disc jockey. That was my favorite thing to do. I also went and looked up classes in Karol Bagh when I was in 3rd year in Luthra, and I was saying, what do I do on weekends? But the place was so shady. The guy who was teaching the DJ course, -3 basement. I was like, okay, I'm not going here. So that was a career that never happened. But yeah, so either an IAS officer or maybe a disc jockey.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Never too late.
Tanisha, we should have a separate program where we've got Tejal hairdressing and Aparna DJing to that. They would be phenomenal. Phenomenal, these
I'm
two.
saying this for myself. You might lose all your audience. So
It's okay. Tejal's going to be cutting hair. There's not going to be too much of an audience, I suspect.
Hey, I'm sure I'll do a good job.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. Under 12 only. Like that'll be our audience.
Oh, they are the worst. I'm going to pick the guys who are half bald. There's nothing much there.
Okay, Aparna, your next question. If there was one woman in history that you could ask a question to, who would it be and why?
I would have asked Helen Keller, how did she motivate herself to do what she did?
Wow. Okay, super. IQ or EQ or AQ now that we know of it? What makes better leaders today and why?
I think both IQ and EQ. Because I really think that a lot of times we make managers or supervisors based on technical skill, and people may not really understand what it is to be a people manager. And I think I have seen a lot of people who become more and more unidimensional as bosses or leaders or managers, because they think I'm the best lawyer, so I'm the best manager, and that may not be true. So I definitely think that, a lot of EQ, which is just about empathy and understanding and all, will go a long way in addressing a lot of the issues we've talked about.
Fair enough. Okay. 3 words your team, ex-team members or current team members would use to describe you.
Well, one would be hard taskmaster for sure. The other would be empathetic. And the third would be brutally authentic and honest.
Nice. Okay. An incident that you may have had where you treated a team member a certain way and almost immediately regretted it.
I think maybe not one incident, but maybe when I was in my second or third year, I had just become senior associate. I was handling a lot more transactions or work on my own. I had become very impatient, and I thought I was getting impatient with people. Your expectation is different. And hats off to one of my mentors at that law firm, who I went up to him saying, "Look, I don't want my personality to change. Why am I getting to become a different person?" And he said, "Look, to be a real leader, you have to fill the gaps for everyone. Everyone will not come a 10 on 10. And you have to be the 3 on 10 for somebody, if somebody's 7, and you have to be the 6 for somebody who's 4. And I think that was a life lesson that really made me a better person and a better team player. And because if I had not sought out that interjection at that point of time, I would have become perhaps a toxic personality in some way. But this taught me to, as Tejal said, walk with everyone and be everything for everyone in the team that you can be.
Fair enough. Okay. So the next set of questions, again, Aparna, we'll start with you and then go to Tejal, okay? So, Aparna, how did you celebrate when you made partner?
I don't really remember. It was 2012. So I would have probably, the team and I would have gone out for dinner, which we did very often. Okay. So it would have been just a fun dinner or something.
Okay, fair. One person who was your strongest sponsor professionally?
I've been lucky, I spent 10 years of my life at Luthra, and I think in the beginning years, some of the seniors I worked with, they were very, very, they had a vision for themselves, and they really understood how to give space to people who were as opinionated as I could. And that also meant that they were willing to give you the space to staff matters the way you wanted to, take decisions early, and really help you explore your personality or your professional development in that way. So I don't think I can take one name because I would be discrediting the others, but I think I got lucky. I worked with some very good leaders very early on in my career.
Okay, super. 3 things you cannot go through the day without.
A cup of tea, for sure. Then making my to-do list. I'm a freak. I need to make a short to-do list and a long to-do list. And 20 minutes, I actually copy things from did not finish what's sitting on my to-do list to the new to-do list. So that's really, but that gives me a sense of how much I can while away my time in the day and how much I really need to get done that day. And I need some silent time, because I think a lot of our work, whether I was at a law firm or now, you just are leading a lot of conversations. They can be very, very tiring. So I really need that time where I can recharge, and I can also, now my job is a little bit more creative. I do a lot of content creation. So I really need that space of no conversation, sometimes 1 hour, sometimes 4 hours, where I just can't talk to anyone.
Okay, super. One piece of advice you would give 16-year-old Aparna?
I would think when I started off, professionally, there was not so much of an understanding about physical fitness or mental health. And I would definitely have brought in some more aspects of work-life balance, just from a physical fitness perspective.
Okay, fair. The most empowering thing about being a woman in law is dash.
I don't know if it's about being women in law, but I think just being a lawyer, I think you can speak your mind more easily than perhaps a lot more. Okay. Because you can understand the risks and the ramifications.
Fair. Okay, when you're hiring for your team, the one thing that immediately has your attention is dash.
I think the person's earnestness and how willing they are to learn.
Super. All right, Tejal, the next set of questions back at you. How did you celebrate when you made senior executive on the in-house side?
What a black mark. So, I mean, I have to give you the background for your viewers. I mean, I called up my mother to tell her the news, and you're given a larger car allowance to get yourself a car when you get promoted. And I asked her, I said, what should I buy? And she said, a black mark, because you've only arrived if you have a black mark. So that's what I did.
Oh, nice. Okay. So you did arrive and you continue to arrive, right, Tejal?
Well, I'm enjoying the car, but yeah, it's a bit embarrassing.
Don't be. You've worked very hard for it. Don't be embarrassed at all. Okay, next question. One person who was your strongest sponsor professionally?
I think, without naming the person, but my general counsel at GE. And the fact that I moved so many countries, I was given opportunities wherever I was, supporting me through the tragedies in my life. I think the organization did a lot for me, and that helped.
Okay. 3 things you cannot go through your day without.
Diet Coke, my dog, because he keeps me company, especially since I'm working from home. So he's always at my feet, like I said, snoring away. And same as Aparna, I have sticky notes. I have to keep notes and to-do lists. And I feel really good when they're all ticked off at the end of the day.
Don't we all? Okay. One piece of advice you would give 16-year-old Tejal.
People end up where they should be. So don't worry about it.
Nice. Okay. The most empowering thing for you about being a woman in law is dash.
I think it's enabled me to always understand both sides of a story. It's not so much about being a woman in law as it is just about, law is a discipline that allows you analysis, that allows you to understand options, interpretations, ways of looking at things. That's helped, and I think it's helping, all aspects of life in some way, just those skills more than the law.
Okay. Your next question, when you're hiring for your team, the one thing that immediately has your attention is dash.
Energy.
Energy.
I look for positive energy in the person, and it immediately strikes me as the most attractive thing in that candidate, because I know that they bring, if you have the energy and the enthusiasm, the rest of it just follows.
Correct. True. So you'd hire Vikas, Aparna and me, you think?
We'll see the energy on the show, but that's what strikes you first.
Correct.
I think,
Fair. Okay.
in a candidate.
Over to you.
Aparna, I'll come to you. The most underrated skill that leaders should possess is?
That at me, because I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, I'll do this next few questions that you can then go back to.
Sure. The most underrated skill, I would think empathy.
Right. The app on your phone, which you open maximum number of times in a day is?
Instagram.
Oh.
Which statement's truer? Women making it to the top is tougher, or women staying at the top is tougher?
Definitely making it to the top is tougher. But not because of anything women are lacking, but perhaps of externalities.
Yeah. And then for one whole day, you're in charge of making policies and implementing them. No questions asked, and these will not be reversed or changed for the next 100 years. What policy level change, a bit like our government today actually, but what policy level change would you bring to benefit women lawyers?
I really honestly can't think of anything I would do for women lawyers, though there is a lot to be done. But I would definitely want transgender employment to really become mandatory, and along with capacity building and proper job. It's a dream I really hope comes true, to see more and more trans people employed in respectful and dignified professions, and to really mainstream them in. I actually get goosebumps when I say this, but if that's something I could do, I would think I've used my life.
That's phenomenal. The most daring thing you've done professionally and personally?
But professionally, definitely to quit a law firm partnership and to just, I had a wild dream nobody understood for the first year. Now it's become a buzzword. That was definitely the most risky thing that I did. Personally, I don't think I've taken many big risks, but when I finished class 12, I did nothing for a year because I always wanted to be a lawyer, and I kind of missed the law school entrance because it was a small town. Information in 1999, it didn't flow so seamlessly. So I said, to hell with it, I'm not going to do anything else. I will bunk a year and do nothing, and then make it in time to be able to file the application for the entrance. So yes, I took a year off then as well.
Super. An early sabbatical before you'd even started work.
Absolutely.
One hack you would give women in law firms and on their entrepreneurial journeys?
I would think for entrepreneurs, I would say believe in yourself, because it takes time to set up. And, I've had my phases as an entrepreneur as well, because I tried to do something which is very different from what is happening in the market. And somebody told me, a gentleman who's a senior from law school, that it takes 1,000 days to set up a business. So I think that's what I would say, that, wait it out. If your idea is strong, you will see it materialize. And for law firms, I would say that speak your mind and define your boundaries. Whether it's a client, whether it's a senior, you define the boundaries and don't be hesitant in doing so.
Yeah, I think both very good tips. And speaking your mind, for youngsters as well. That's a great tip, because it's easy to get their voice suppressed when they're growing in a firm. Tejal, over to you. The most underrated skill that leaders should possess is?
Humility.
Okay, the app on your phone which you open maximum number of times in a day is?
During COVID, Netflix. Otherwise, WhatsApp.
Which statement's truer? Women making it to the top is tougher, or women staying at the top is tougher?
So, initially I was actually with Aparna saying women making it, but somehow the last few years I've seen a fall of some of the women on top. And that makes me sad that, role models for others have not been able to sort of stay there. And that's been a bit disappointing to me.
Okay. And then for one whole day, you're in charge of making policies and implementing them. No questions asked, not reversible. What policy level change would you bring in to benefit women lawyers?
So look, I have to take the opportunity to talk about the General Counsel Association we just started a couple of weeks ago. But the objective of the association is really to bring recognition for the in-house counsel as a profession and as a separate and distinct sort of class of lawyers. The reason is it's also beneficial for women lawyers because the in-house counsel role is seen as something you do if you failed in a law firm or failed in litigation or something which is like a second-class citizen in our world. And I think that does a disservice to both men and women who want to move in-house. And I see more and more women also moving in-house because, and so I think this is something that's going to help everyone. So I hope it does come about sometime.
Yeah, no, all the best with that, because it's much needed and has been much talked about for a number of years, that we do need a decent association to bring the community together from a more intellectual point of view, rather than simply going on retreats, for example. So the most daring thing you've done professionally and personally?
I guess, remarried and come to India without a job. I could argue that, and people could argue that it is moving to OYO after GE, but that was not risky. That was very calculated. I knew where I was in my career. I knew what I wanted next. So just the fact that I gave up everything, gave up the life I know, came here, had no job, and just had faith that so late in my life, I could just make it all work.
Personally, cutting your husband's hair.
See, it helps. I have perks.
So one hack you give women in in-house roles.
It's not about work-life balance. And so when you come in, you might have a little more control over your time, but you need to be as hardworking and dedicated as anywhere, is what I would look at it.
Okay, super. And what about, what about this stage of your career as well? Like you just mentioned, a lot of women drop off, but one hack for women at the top as well, like who've got to senior positions.
That you have a larger responsibility now as you have become a role model to others. And giving back to society and paying it back at this point, like Aparna's trying to do and everyone else, is critical, where you think beyond yourself and help others.
Super. I mean, phenomenal answers, I think, from both of you. We want to go on to the next segment.
That brings us to the end of this segment. Thank you both for generously and honestly answering everything we asked of you. The last piece of this conversation is where we're going to ask each of you to either bring a thing or a memory. It could be a material possession or just a conversation that holds a very special place in your professional life, and tell us why. So, Aparna, maybe you want to start off?
I love it how you volunteer me to the guillotine first, but apart from that, Tanisha, I don't have a materialistic possession which I have, which I can show, but I can share a memory, and I think it follows the same theme of, carrying your head high and, not and defining boundaries. So I think I was in the second day of my profession, and my then partner, who was the boss of the team, he was conflicted and he couldn't go for a negotiation. So I was packed off then, and he had a lot of faith in me that she will, carry on this negotiation. I knew the issues, etc. As I walked into that room, the other side, there was a managing partner of another tier 1 law firm who was horrible to me, because I think he thought that there's this little girl who's here, and everything I said, he said, I have not seen this, and my experience, this has not happened, and said a lot of unparliamentary things to me and about the law firm I was representing. And I just kept my cool, and I kept saying, and I kept taking him back to the clauses in the, in the agreement we were negotiating. And I just kept to it, and I just saying, I just kept defining the boundary and kept taking him back to the discussion. Well, of course, that went off well. 3 months after that transaction closed, the other side, and the CEO, CFO, GC, all of them were in that room, and that was a 6.5-hour grueling negotiation where this gentleman just keep trying to, say a lot of unwanted stuff. But 3 months after that transaction closed, that client hired us and came to me saying, we want you to be our counsel. And I'm talking about 2008. So it's been many years. Till date, they have been my clients. Even when I started Samāna, they were the first to reach out to me saying, we want to know what you're doing. What can you do for us to improvise our workplace situation? So I just think that if you speak your mind, if you're authentic, and even if it's scary, if you define the boundaries, you will create that mark for yourself.
Wow.
Phenomenal again.
Fantastic. It's a bit mind-numbing, actually. I can't, I'm just processing the story, and that's why the pause. Wow, that's something, Aparna.
But I actually think that, maybe people are always looking at you, and if you do your bit, you will get what is the best thing to come out of that conversation, even if it's initially scary or intimidating in some way.
Okay. Okay, super. Thanks for sharing that. Tejal, over to you. What do you have for us?
Okay, let me show you something. Give me a second. Okay. I don't know if you can see this. So I don't know if you can see it the right way around, but
Wow.
this was a little thing that they gave me at my farewell in G, which says, "You move my cheese."
Wow.
And it's really precious because that's my favorite book. And every time I would start a new role or a new chapter, I would always show the team, the takeaways from that book, which would say your cheese is moved, and the faster you get used to the cheese, and the new cheese, and let go of the old cheese, the more successful you'll be. And it used to be the standing joke, right? That Tejal has this standard thing that she does every time. And just to get something like this, where the team came back and said that I moved their cheese, I mean, it was so rewarding. It was a sentimental moment. So I love it.
Wow. And is that picture that they put up there? That's like a portrait of you, is it?
Yeah. But it was more about sort of, you moved our cheese. So
Oh, cool.
it was really nice.
That's very, very nice. Okay, super. That brings us to the end of this interview, ladies. Thank you both. You've been wonderful, even in our offline chat and, of course, live today. It's been a pleasure getting to know the both of you. And I'm sure our audiences are going to continue to watch this show once it's up on YouTube as well. And thanks a lot for making the time. We're truly honored.
Yeah. And
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being authentic. I think like what Aparna has mentioned a few times, I mean, it just makes a real big difference when you can bring a true self even to this kind of conversation.
Vikas has promised us he's indemnifying us after this conversation. So if you have any issues, reach out to Vikas and team.
Aparna, don't worry. Tejal's hiring the three of us. She likes our energy. We're sorted.
I'm an entrepreneur, so hiring is not a concern for me. I'm just talking to you.
No, I've enjoyed the conversation so much, and actually, I feel like I know Aparna so much better, and we've so many things in common. So it's been lovely. Thank you so much.
It's very nice to meet you as well. We haven't met before this.
This has been enjoyable. Please meet each other in Delhi. One in the black Merc and the other in an auto. Send us a picture. Thank you both for doing this.
We'll do for sure.
Enjoy your Sunday evening. Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.